No one expected the final days of filming to feel quite like this. Season 6 had stretched longer than anyone imagined, and now that everything was wrapping up, there was this strange mix of exhaustion, relief, and a deep heaviness hanging in the air. The entire cast and crew were in Italy, surrounded by ancient stone and rough landscapes that felt almost too fitting for the story they were telling. And even though so much had already been revealed to the fans, this final stretch carried secrets raw, painful, unforgettable ones. Everyone who stepped onto set could feel that something about this season was different. The actors said it felt like carrying invisible weight, the kind that pressed into the body and stayed long after the cameras stopped rolling. The crew kept repeating the same thing. Season 6 was the hardest season they had ever worked on. The first sign of that intensity was the cast themselves. People who were normally relaxed, joking, full of energy now walked with quiet focus. Mary, Salome, Tamar, and others gathered together, each one talking about their experience like they had just walked through a storm. Many of them had been working on other projects recently, so returning to this world felt jarring in the best and worst ways. One of them said it had been so long since they had talked about what happened on set here that it felt almost strange to revisit it, but the truth was simple. Nothing about this season was comfortable. Everyone admitted it openly. This story demanded more from them emotionally, physically, spiritually than any season before it. The set itself told the story. Strange ancient-looking blades, thick hammers, wooden beams, shackles, ropes, and other props lay scattered around, each one representing a moment that would eventually shake the audience's heart. One crew member pointed out the wooden beam that would hold Christ's arms, and suddenly the weight of the season became real again. As the filming days grew longer, the scenes grew heavier. Some scenes stayed quiet for hours. Others erupted into emotional chaos. The actors had to live inside that tornado. One cast member described it as the greatest challenge of my life. And it wasn't just about acting, it was about reliving something sacred, something devastating, something that required them to pour out more emotion than they thought they had done in one moment. The camera caught Mother Mary crying, surrounded by John, Martha, and Salome. Even in the rough behind-the-scenes footage, their grief hit hard. They weren't just performing, they were sinking into the heartbreak of those who lived it. A crew member laughed softly and said that someone in the background looked like Quintus, even though it wasn't him. But the joking only lasted a second. The mood always shifted back to the reality of what they were shooting. Eden appeared next, quiet and reflective. For a moment, seeing her felt like a small bit of comfort in a sea of sorrow. But even she carried the emotional weight of everything around her. Everywhere you looked, small details reminded you of what this season was building toward. The sign that would hang over Jesus' head, written in 3 languages. The city skyline that would later need CGI to hide the modern world. Even the extras stood silently at times, moved by the atmosphere. One actor mentioned how many questions fans had about the season's behind-the-scenes footage, especially after a previous moment when something accidentally leaked online. Even that memory carried a mix of embarrassment and humor, a reminder that filming a show like this always had unexpected twists, and yet, everyone kept returning to the same theme. Season 6 was intense, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Then came the part that no one could ignore: Judas. His shadow hovered over the entire season. His absence in the upper room scenes was loud. His presence earlier in the story was painful. This was the season where he would fall completely, and everyone knew it. One actor described it as feeling like a bad dream. They would talk about him, think about him, look at the empty place where he should have been. The grief of losing someone who had always been part of the group wrapped itself around every scene. Eventually, someone pointed out the moment everyone had been waiting for: the confirmation of Judas' final scene. It showed him alone on rocky ground, surrounded by dead branches. His face was twisted in anguish, and beside him, plain as day, lay the news. There was no hiding what was coming. That image was taken during the preparation for his death scene. Something everyone had whispered about, wondered about, worried about. The rope, the tree, the rough earth, the exhausted actor curled on the ground. It all became a symbol of how far the season would go. According to one of the team members, this moment wouldn't even appear until years later. When the corresponding film released, people on set said the scene shook them in ways they didn't expect. Judas' actor had to suddenly carry a different kind of burden. Some cast members said his story would not return at all unless a flashback was needed, and many doubted they would revisit his arc after this. But even in all this darkness, the actors kept talking about each other with love. They described their castmates as a second family, people they had grown with for 5 years. The way they spoke about their friendships felt almost like a farewell. Special effects crews worked quietly in the background preparing for major scenes: a collapsing upper room, falling dust, trembling stones. Even the earthquake sequence required creativity and skill, and everyone hoped it would feel as powerful on screen as it felt on set. When someone joked, "Jesus dies," the immediate follow-up was, "But we're not going to tell you how," and everyone laughed nervously. They all knew exactly what was coming, and none of them were ready for it. When one of the crew members talked about the crucifixion location, his voice softened. He said the place looked unbelievable, overwhelming in its realism. Another person admitted that Judas' hanging was one of the most difficult scenes to prepare, not because of the darkness behind it, but because of the technical challenge of keeping the actors safe while telling such a tragic story. As filming continued, the cast kept expressing how deeply they hoped viewers would see what they saw. They said they wanted the characters to feel human more than stories, more than parables. They wanted viewers to look at the people on screen and say, "That's me." Not because of perfection, but because of the humanity behind every moment. One of the cast members said the season taught them about suffering in a way they'd never expected. Their own family was facing a health crisis at the time, and working on this season felt like walking through that pain with a different kind of understanding. They said they knew they could never fully understand Christ's suffering, but filming this gave them at least a glimpse, a small, powerful taste of it. Still, hope was coming. Season 7 would bring renewal, joy, resurrection, and light. After a season filled with sorrow, struggle, and heartbreak, everyone looked forward to the hope they would finally get to portray. By the time the crew gathered for the final shots, the set felt quieter than ever. The sadness, the beauty, the exhaustion, it all settled into the atmosphere like fog. They knew this season would change people. They believed it fully, and as they wrapped the last moments, they felt the weight of everything they had created. This wasn't just another season. It was the one that would stay with them, the one that would break them a little, the one that would change the audience too. And now, after finishing their hardest work yet, they stepped back and waited for the world to feel it.